welcome to my series of Angular tutorials. The first thing to use Angular is we want to install Angular. So I basically put a small repository here on GitHub and it's called Angular Getting Started Tutorials. So I'm going to update this with some modern Angular, and the first thing we want to do to get Angular running is install it. So I found that installing Angular on macOS was not too bad, but there's a bunch of commands you do have to run to make it install successfully, and there's a certain chronological order you must execute these commands in. So I put together a small shell script to help people do this. So I'm on macOS, and right now we're just going to really worry about macOS. So the first thing you want to do is get Node.js installed on your Mac. And so to do that, I'm going to use curl to pull down this version of Node.js. It's the latest version as of August 20th here, 2023. This version number will change, so you'll want to probably update the script, or I'll need to update it with later Node versions. So once that runs then, and we get a hold of that file, we're going to use the Mac installer to install this package, which is this Node file. And basically, you could also double click on this file here. You can double click on this file and it would go in the same way, but this provides an automated way to install it via a script. Okay, so then we're going to continue. Once this file is in, we have npm, so we're going to install npm and install n here. Globally, the G means global, and then we're simply going to echo and parent out the versions of what we have. We'll get our version of Node, make sure it looks reasonable, get our npm version, make sure it looks reasonable, and that's about it. And next we're going to install the Angular CLI globally, as you need that to create components and do Angular work. And once this is all done, this whole section here will get Angular installed, and really that's all there is to it. Once this is all done, you're ready to create an application. So now we're going to make a small test app, and I echo out some generic commands here. To make a new app, you can basically just say ng new and then my app, or some name of the app you want to create. And so I simply echo these out. When the app is done, you can do an ng serve, and this you don't even need this open here, but you can say ng serve, and that will bring up a web server on port 4200, and that allows you to see your changes of your application when you're building it here real time. All right, and so I had some issues with this running correctly, and so I just put a hint in here, at least for me on that macOS, this npm file was owned by root. So you want to make sure this thing's owned by the actual non-privileged user running it. On Mac, everybody has their name on here, and things are usually owned by staff. So it's username jfall, at least for me here, and a group of staff. Now we'll make this test app. And so to make an app with ng, again, we're just going to say ng new test app in my case, and we'll now cd to that directory because this will cause a directory created full of files. And I'm going to start using material. So material is an Angular repository. Well, that's a bad word for it. It's an Angular collection of components that will enable you to make some really pretty apps. And then Microsoft Visual Studio Code is really useful. It's probably the de facto standard these days for manipulating TypeScript code and everything else. So you also want to put code on your system first. And so all we're going to do here is create this new directory with the application files in there, cd to it, and then we're going to simply add material for Angular. We're going to bring up code and start coding. So let's do that. So now I want to do a clone of this thing, and we'll start getting to work here. So here is basically some, I keep losing this thing here, there we go. Here is how we would do that. I've already done a git clone on this, but let's get rid of it and show you how it works. So we'll remove this because we're going from scratch here, so we're going to get rid of this here. And we're going to put a new one in right away here. So git clone, and let's see if I saved that address. Nope, I didn't. So we're just going to go get clone, and we're going to clone off of this here. So we're just going to go like this and copy this URL and put it back into here and clone it. And once that's cloned, we can cd to that directory and start working on the script here. Oh, didn't find it. Let's see here. Just want to get the directory name, and sometimes I cut and paste and don't catch everything. All right, we're in there. This script, I think, has to go to execute mode here. That's so it'll execute. And now let's just run this, and this will install our Angular environment and make us a test app. I want to make sure there's no test app in here, as I might have it still here. Let's make sure it's gone. Okay, let's go back into here. Actually, it's going to put test app into this directory here, so let's do it that way. So let's run the script, and everything will just run and work to install your Angular environment. You'll need to know your sudo password here. Downloading files, now you're putting your sudo password, so this is the password of your account. Basically, it's not any special password. This is just the password of your account to go to sudo. And once that's done, the fun begins. It's installing Node now. And this stuff, in my case, is already installed. It's just going to upgrade it. But for the purpose of this course, I want to show how it works. So all this goes in. Okay, so Angular routing, I'm going to put that in. I wasn't able to automate this part of it. And I'll use CSS. And that's about it. So it's made our little test app here. And it's working on things. And once this is all installed, it's gonna basically add material here, and we'll bring up code. I don't think I start the server here, so we'll do that manually. Anyway, this is taking some time, isn't it? There it goes. Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Put material in here. So material gives you the ability, and it wants you to pick defaults. I'm just going to pick the first one. I guess pink's a fine color for me. And yeah, we'll do that. Animation, sure. So I think for people that are, now it brings up code, and now we're in our application already called test app. So here's all the basic things you're going to need to get started in Angular. And what we'll do is now start up the server so we can see what is happening. Okay, that's not working. So I need to go into my test app here, or else it's not going to go. And recall that command. It'll do a compile on it, and because this stuff is all boilerplate, it's going to work. It's taking a minute. First run will take a while. Okay, now this thing is running, so You can now look at port 4200 and see your application running. So I can bring up Chrome here and just paste this in, localhost 4200. And there's the application. So this is boilerplate that Angular puts in there to inspire you. And yes, indeed, it's inspiring. So how would we change that and get started? Well, here's how we would do it. You would run down to Faithful Visual Studio Code here. And everything starts from this app at the very top here. So there's our test app here, and this stuff's all config stuff. We're going to go into source here, and there's the app, how it starts. So take a peek in there. And Angular does everything through an HTML file, basically, and components. So you'll find that this index file here is going to be somewhat useful. Let's find the one that's actually displaying here. Here it is. So everything's going to have a name. It's going to be like some name and then component. So if I had subcomponents, it would have the name of the component. So app is our top level component. It gets everything started, and in here they got a bunch of boilerplate. We can take all this stuff out of here and make it change. So I want to display our app here running. So this will all happen real time, and you can see that this is running here in this window, and all I need to do now is get rid of all this stuff and put something else in here, and that's how we get started. So I want to select all this stuff and just delete it. I don't think my window is long enough to do this, but anyway, I'm just going to delete all this stuff here. And you could put it like a heading in here. And what you'll find is this will recompile, because as soon as I do a save, it's going to recompile. You can see it recompiling on the fly here. And there's my hello world that came out. So that's how to work this, and now we'll do some real interesting stuff. This is simply how to get started in like 10 minutes and get your environment set up. So that's how that works, and you can fool around like this. You can type really any kind of HTML in here, it'll work. So we'll get into some better stuff now. All right, well, that's my video, how to get Hello World working with Angular from my little repository here with a getting started script. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.